Let's go, champ. Thanks to everyone who, there were 2 or 3 people who sent me messages today regarding none other than the Cannon. Let's go, champ, Mr. Briggs, calling out David Haye today via his Instagram. And people were asking me for my views on that fight. Let me start by saying, it doesn't surprise me that Briggs is calling out David Haye. For me, Briggs' comeback was always centred around one final payday. You know, Briggs is a guy in his early to mid-40s. He has fought a very, very, very low level of opposition since his comeback. And to me, the way he's gone about it, the way he's gone about promoting himself, tells me he doesn't really want to work his way into a mandatory position. He doesn't want to fight the top 10 fighters. He doesn't want those big 50-50 classes. What he wants is a one final big money payday that he promotes into a big, big event. You know, we've seen him chasing down Vladimir Klitschko. We've seen him chasing down Deontay Wilder. You know, those guys are now going to be tied up for the foreseeable future with other fights. So who does he turn his attention to? Possibly the other big payday that's available in the division, David Haye. Now, what Shannon Briggs may or may not realise is that David Haye is self-promoted. Haymaker Promotions works with the O2 Arena. David Haye doesn't have the backing of an Eddie Hearn or a Frank Warren. David Haye doesn't have the backing of a massive pay-per-view platform at this stage. And as a result, David Haye may not have the budget to be paying opponents, you know, the 7-figure sums that I presume Shannon Briggs would be after for a fight with David Haye. You know, so I would not be sure that David Haye would actually consider a fight with Shannon Briggs, because I think David Haye, being self-promoted, would be more inclined to pay more affordable opponents, you know, lesser name opponents. A guy like Malik Scott, for example, who's been heavily rumoured, he's probably higher ranked than Briggs, but, you know, due to his lack of a name, you know, I mean, Malik Scott would be much less known to the casual market than Briggs. Then I guess Briggs is a more expensive fighter. As for how the fight goes, you know, Shannon Briggs, for me, at this stage of his career, is a 1 or 2 round fighter. The guy comes out, he throws a lot of big punches in the first round. He's clearly still heavy-handed. They say that power is the last thing to go. But apart from that, there's not much to his game. You know, he carries 1 or 2 round power. If you want to see evidence of that, check out the Rafael Zambano Love fight. Now, Zambano Love's a durable guy. You know, he went 9-10 rounds with Charles Martin. Didn't do so well against Anthony Joshua, interestingly. But if you look at Zambano Love's overall profile, he's a durable guy. You know, Briggs couldn't get him out of there early and pretty much followed him round for the whole of the fight, just in a very, very dull, drab affair, outpointing him. You know, that fight kind of highlighted to me that if someone's able to go past the first round or 2 with Shannon Briggs, he's there for the taking. You know, he won't be hard to outbox. He won't be hard to outwork. And to be honest, I know Briggs has got an excellent chin. I know he stayed there and took a massive beating against Vitaly Klitschko, and so great heart and a warrior's mentality. I think David Haye wouldn't have too much problems getting rid of Shannon Briggs at this stage of his career, to be honest. Yeah, Briggs, too old, too slow, too immobile, too hittable, and whilst David Haye would certainly have to keep his wits about him in the first round, after he'd got through that, I think it'd be a sparring session and target practice. You know, even if you look at Shannon Briggs' Instagram video today, I know he's just messing around, but you can see when he's hitting the bag, the speed is just not there at the same level that David Haye carries it, and I think David Haye would be a class above at this stage of their respective careers. Another name that's highly rumoured is Malik Scott. Now, Malik Scott's a complete opposite opponent to Shannon Briggs. Malik Scott is a guy who's going to not carry much power, but he's going to box, move, jab for 12 rounds. And yeah, potentially, if Scott got into his groove, he could frustrate David Haye. Potentially even outbox David Haye. But to be honest, that's a fight that I'm not overly keen to be seeing, because whilst Malik Scott is a very, very good fighter on his day, you know, putting excellent performances against Leopai and Tony Thompson recently, the guy has 0 punch resistance. I mean, he got dropped heavily by Tony Thompson. Let's not forget he got stopped by Derek Chisora. This, you know, I know the Deontay Wilder fight is another matter altogether, but let's be honest, Tony Thompson, Chisora, if those guys can hurt you badly in fights, what's David Haye going to do to you? You know, Malik Scott does not have good punch resistance. And for me, the way David Haye carries power, I think David Haye would get him out of there first time he hit Malik Scott. I agree, if Malik Scott could be elusive and, you know, have David Haye chasing him around the ring and staying defensively sound, then Malik Scott could be a tough fight. But I just see David Haye clipping him early, and I don't see Malik Scott wanting to get back up and back into the fight after he's been hit by David Haye. So those are the two names. Neither of them I see as competitive fights. Briggs is probably going to be more expensive, so less likely. You know, Malik Scott, you get the impression he's going to be more affordable, happy to travel. I think the Briggs fight would go longer. You know, Briggs has less to offer than Scott, but he's got greater punch resistance than Scott. So, whilst they're very different tests, neither of them are fights that I'd desperately be interested in seeing. At least the Briggs fight has the potential to go a few rounds though. Let me know your thoughts on this. Who do you think David Haye should fight? If you've enjoyed this discussion, please click the thumbs up button. Thanks for watching.